I want to thank all of you for being here. This is going to be value add for each and every one of you, because I know each and every one of you has some sort of responsibility for creating clients and having relationships. And so this is something like you've probably not experienced before. Stepping back and thinking about, how do I network effectively? What is the point? How do I get an ROI on my time at networking events, whether they be the speed networking events that IR Global has once a quarter? I know that we just had one, I think it was last week. And so this material is for that. It's for Boston or Paris or future IR Global events, or as Rachel said, any type of event where you go and you have the ability to make connections. So let's get started. You're in the right place if part of your responsibilities include generating business and creating clients. You are in the right place if you attend networking events and feel a little bit uncomfortable or feel unproductive or any of the things that you might feel. You're in the right place if you failed to achieve success at networking events. And side note, success is how you define it, not how anybody else defines success. It's how you define success for yourself when you have the ability to network. Or you're a member of IR Global. You are in the right place. Here's me. I am a lawyer who coaches exclusively with attorneys. I practiced law for 24 years. I owned and managed a successful law firm for 16. I am home-based in Boise, Idaho. I am a professional certified coach by the International Coaching Federation, and there's other things on the slide that you can see. This is me in front of a room of about 350 high performers, talking with them about leadership. It's one of my areas, and networking is, in fact, a type of leadership. You can step into this role and lead through the process. So that's a bit about me. I am in the IR Global Hub. You can always ping me. I'll have my contact information at the end, but you can always ping me. I'd love to have a conversation. This is the 80th anniversary of D-Day. These slides were not created for today, but they are, you're going to have some D-Day people. Those who plan do better than those who do not plan, even should they rarely stick to the plan, right? We think that if we have a plan, we must stick with it. Well, Winston Churchill says, maybe not so much. Those who plan do better than those who do not plan. Then we have another quote. In preparing for battle, I have always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. Networking may not be a battle for some of us. It may be a battle for some of us. It depends on how we feel about it and the frame that we look at it through. Regardless, if you plan, you will perform better whether you stick with your plan or not. And this is another D-Day person, Dwight Eisenhower. So let's really talk about the obstacles to achieving ROI, return on investment, at networking events, right? Let's do away with the excuses and let's get to some results. So, obstacles to achieving your biggest ROI are not having a plan, going to events and just connecting with friends. Look, that's super important. I'm not downplaying that at all. Connecting with friends is really important. Having community, having that social aspect contributes to our performance. It's essential. So I get it. That's part of it. But if that's all of it, I think you're missing out on getting an ROI for your investment in attending conferences or networking events. Another obstacle to success is failing to keep score. Yeah, you ought to keep score at networking events. You have the ability to do that. At the end of each and every day, you can say, how did I do today compared to my goal? And what will I do tomorrow to achieve tomorrow's goal? So failure to keep score is another obstacle to achieving a stellar return on investment. Your personality can be a type of obstacle. And I say a type of obstacle because people view this differently. And science tells us one thing and people think something else. For example, introversion versus extroversion. Introversion is not shyness. Introversion has to do with energy. Whether being in a crowd gives you energy or whether it drains you. That's introversion versus extroversion and shyness. And part of it is really setting yourself up for success in that, okay, I can network for a time and then I need some downtime. It's okay to do that. And for example, at Boston, we're going from the first event is Tuesday night. The last event is Saturday. There is time that you can build in to separate, step back, and recharge, as opposed to being at it all the time, because you're not going to perform at your best in those situations. And the final obstacle is the story that we tell ourselves about networking. It's the story that we tell ourselves about why we're here, what it is that we're doing, and whether we enjoy it or we don't. So those are the obstacles to achieving maximum return on investment for your networking activity. So let's get rid of those. Let's get rid of those things. Let's address them. The first thing to recognize is for you the requirement of identifying your purpose in networking. Why are you doing this thing? Why are you there? If we don't do that and we just think, well, I'm there to network, that's not good enough. I'm here to tell you that that's not good enough. And here's why it's not good enough. Because there's no real there, right? There's no motivator. There's no reason to keep going. I'm here to network, so I talk to one person. I'm good, I win. That may be true. It may not be true. So define your purpose for the event. Why am I here? The second thing is, how do you prepare to network? Networking is like anything else. I told you I'm a former litigator. It took me, and for the litigators out there, you know that this is true. It took me 7 to 10 hours of preparation for each hour in the courtroom. I bring that mindset to networking. I prepare to network. The first thing I do is, what's the purpose? Then I define how am I going to do it. I do some research, more than some. I prepare. I create a target list, honestly. Who are the people that I want to meet? And we have the ability, for those of us who are attending IR Global in Boston and who are going to be attending IR Global in Paris, preview, I'm going to do this presentation again before Paris. But we have the app. If you haven't downloaded the app, do so. Download that app. It's going to give you attendees. You're going to be able to scan when you're present. You're going to be able to scan people into your contacts. You're going to be able to do all that stuff. For now, between now and 3 weeks from now, we have the list of attendees. You can go in. You can identify who it is that you want to meet, and the most important way of doing that is identifying who your power partners are generally. I get a lot of work, for example, from real estate lawyers or M&A lawyers or these types of accountants. I get quite a bit of referrals from them. Okay, so then you have that set. You go into the attendee list and you identify the people who are in that space who you want to meet. And the final part of networking that people do quite poorly at, me included, I'm real. I need to get better at this. I want to get better at it. Is follow up, and it's not just a one and done. It can't just be a one and done, because at the end of the day, networking is about relationships. And if you have coffee or you have a cocktail or you sit and have lunch with someone once and you connect with them on LinkedIn and you ping them one time, they're going to forget about you. It's human nature. There's too much going on in the world. And so follow-up is essential. I mentioned LinkedIn. You can free connect with folks once you know who your targets are from the attendee list on LinkedIn. Now, if it's not a Boston event or an in-person event where you get the attendee list ahead of time, you can still do the purpose in networking. You can still identify your power partners. And then afterwards, that's when you connect with us on LinkedIn, send them messages and follow up. So those are the ways. And again, for the IR Global event in June, I've been on the app already multiple times. I keep on waiting for the attendee list to drop. I think it's tomorrow. I think for some reason the 7th is in my head. It'll be there soon. So download the app and get in there and play. Many folks, me included, again, this is real, me included, struggle with stepping up to a group of strangers and starting to speak, right? Starting to talk, or extracting ourselves from a conversation when it's not really serving us, or we need to recharge, as I talked about. So one key way of dealing with this is to have can opener questions ready-made in your back pocket, ready to go. And they're not, can opener questions aren't, hey, what do you do? That's boring. It's boring. It's not memorable. It doesn't really create conversation. Hey, what do you do? No, that ain't it. You'll get there. You'll understand it. Number one, they're going to have a name tag on, or their name is going to be on the screen. That's what IR Global does really well for their speed networking events. They ask everyone to put their name, their company, and their region on Zoom. So they do it really well. When you're in person, you can see folks, you can see their companies, and you've also got the list. So not what do you do, please. When you come up to me in Boston, you already know what I do. But when you come up to me in Boston, you will not hear me ask anyone, what do you do? Because you'll get there. You can get that information. Be comfortable and be authentic, right? These questions ought to be comfortable and authentic. One of my questions, and you're going to see this on a list next slide. One of my questions is to ask people what their goals are for the year. What's a big goal that you have? Because I think that's interesting, and that really gives me juice when I hear that. Oh, that sounds great. And then the second question is, how do I support you? I mean, I get it. I just met you, but I know that I can support you in some way, shape, or form, whether it's an introduction, whether it's a resource, anything like that. So have those can opener questions ready to go to insert yourself into conversations amongst a group of people. Fearlessly is not the right word. That's a mistake on my slide, and that's my fault, because it's not fearlessly, it's bravely. The difference between fearless and brave Fearless is not experiencing fear at all. And some of us are like that when we go up to strangers, and that's great. Most of us experience fear. Bravery is doing it anyway. Doing it anyway, even in the face of fear. So have these can opener questions ready to go. And you can literally have them on a sheet of paper, and you can look at the paper in between your connecting and pull another one out for the next connecting group. Many folks struggle. I was in a conversation with a client from the Los Angeles area just this week, and he asked me, John, how do I get it. So I have this plan. I have the people I want to meet, and then I get stuck in a conversation with someone who's not on my target list, who's sucking up my time, and I've got my goals that I want to achieve. How do I extricate myself from that? That's a great question, because we don't want to be rude. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. We don't want to make others uncomfortable either. So having can opener ways of getting out of conversations. You can make something up like, oh, you know what? I got to make a call. This was great talking with you. We can, I'd love to continue it. You can make it up, or you can be honest and you can say, you know what? I really enjoy talking to you. I've got a list of people that I want to meet, and I see one of them over there. Would you excuse me? I would love to continue the conversation, but would you excuse me? Something like that. And then keeping your word and continuing the conversation, whether it be at the conference, online somehow, or offline. Just yesterday, there was an article in Forbes magazine about these types of can opener questions. So here's some examples for you. You're going to get the recording. You can write these down now. You will have them. You can Google them if you want. How did you get started? Why are you an accountant? What's that about? Was it something you always wanted to be? Tell me about that, right? That's a great question. It's interesting. Why do you like what you do? People, especially at conferences, we lament. Oh, it's hard, right? Oh, the struggles. If you change the psychological frame to why do you like what you do, people are much more open. It releases a different neurochemical. It's the feel-good chemicals, and they're going to be much more open, and you'll make a more impactful connection with them. What are you excited about lately? Here's the thing that I love about that question. It's going to give you a window into where their head is. Are they going to the personal life? Well, my son just graduated from uni. That's fantastic. Let's talk about that. Or I just landed this big client. I'm super excited about it. Really interesting issues. You'll get an idea about where their head is at. What's the best thing that's happened to you this year? Again, it changes the frame. It brings people into a growth frame, an openness frame. What are you finding most difficult in your business? What's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now? This is an opportunity for support. You know what? I might know someone who can help you. I would love to make a connection. What's on your radar for the next big thing? What kind of customers or referral sources are you looking for? What do you want, right? And if they've done the work that you're doing because you're here, and you identify your purpose in networking, and you identify your power partners, you're going to be able to maybe support them, and you'll certainly be able to answer this question. What are your big goals for the year, and how can I help you reach them? This is all from Networking Conversation Starters. It's by Ray Titus, and it is Forbes Business Council just yesterday. It's amazing what comes up when we're doing this work. The boxer Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So We talked about Churchill, we talked about Eisenhower, and now we got Mike Tyson. And then we've got this guy, Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So what is your mindset around networking? What is it when you walk into a group of people you do not know? What's your mindset? I want to tell you a little story. This is about me, okay? I teach these things. I coach these things. Some would say, preach these things. And I am not perfect. This is a photo from the Legal Geek conference that was in London the first week of October of last year. I was there. I happened to be in London for a month. My wife and I were in London just experiencing the fantastic city that it is. And Legal Geek happened to fall when I was there. So I signed up for it. Hopped on the tube, the strike, there was maybe a strike was going to happen and it was averted at the last minute, whatever. Hopped on the tube, walked into Legal Geek. I had my plan. I had the attendance list. I had the people I wanted to meet. I had my enthusiasm. I was in a new place. I was talking with new people. I was digging the accents. And I walked in and I had a solid plan. Here's what happened. Every single break, I was by myself. Every single break, I was by myself. I ate lunch by myself. And I pulled the ripcord and I left early because I was super uncomfortable. That was day one. As I was riding the tube back to where we were staying, I stopped and I thought, why? What happened? What happened, John? You had a plan. And the answer was actually quite simple. I got in my own head and I got in my own way and I lost touch with why I was there. I wasn't there to generate business today, right? I wasn't there to ask someone to marry me today. I was there to create relationships. That's why I was there, to find someone interesting and have a conversation with them. When I changed the frame on the way home, I felt much different about day two. I felt much different about day two. And I spoke with my wife because she asked me, so how'd you do? She knows how I operate. How'd you do? You said you were going to meet 5 people. Tell me about it. And then she looked at me and she looked at her watch and she said, oh, you were home early. Okay, so what happened? So I was able to tell her. So day 2, hop on the tube, walk back, hop out, get back to the conference, talk to someone immediately on entering. And that kind of got me started. So what changed? The only thing that changed between day 1 and 2 was my mindset around it and staying connected with why I was there. Not painting this big picture of you have to create business. That's not it. It's you're here to talk with people and you love to do that. So do that thing. We've talked about having a plan. I would be remiss as a coach if I didn't talk about aim smart. A lot of people have heard about SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, aspirational. We're going to talk about that word in just a second. Relevant and time bound. That's the SMART goal framework. For events like networking, I think it's really important to aim before you smart. And so aim is, okay, an acceptable minimum number of people you want to talk to or events you want to attend or conversations you want to have. You get to set the metric. I is ideal and M is the midpoint between the two. The aim takes into account your life, what is going on. It's really hard for most of us, if not all of us, to step away and be in a conference. In Boston, it's going to be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, right? Those are the solid conference days. There's the event on Tuesday night. I hope to see you all there. There's the event on Saturday. I hope to see you all there. But it's really hard to step away for 3 days. So knowing that, set your goals appropriately. Don't set them too small. Don't shrink yourself too much, but set them appropriately. And then you have the 3, right? If you want to talk to 5 people a day, is that the max? Is that the ideal, or is that the midpoint? Give yourself some bandwidth. It's okay to give yourself bandwidth. And then we have the SMART aspect of it. So your goals need to be specific. They must be specific. Whether it's number of people that you meet, or number of conversations that you have, or friends that you want to connect with, whatever it is, it's got to be specific. Otherwise, the time is going to go by and you're not going to be there. You will not have achieved your goals. It must be measurable. We talked about one of the obstacles is not keeping score. You've got to keep score. How did I do today? I made it. I did it. That's going to give you a hit of dopamine. It's going to build your enthusiasm up, and you're going to show up the next day a bit differently. People talk about A as achievable. The A in SMART does not mean achievable. It doesn't. It never has. The original study, the A was assignable, and it's been watered down to achievable. It's not that, because achievable is boring. Can I do that? Yeah, it's easy. Okay, that's not exciting for you. Aspirational. Make the goal aspirational. I've never done this at networking events before, so I want to do it this way, this time, type of thing. Relevant. Well, we're talking about networking. So if it's relevant to you to create clients and create relationships, it's relevant. Time bound. You have the duration of the event. It is naturally time bound for you. Time. We talk about ROI. I know many of you are flying into the event in Boston, or any events that you go to. You're flying in, you're driving, there's costs involved in that. There's cost involved, financial cost involved in registration. I believe that the most significant investment you will make is your time at these types of things, at networking events. Time is your most valuable asset. Think about it. It's the only thing that you can't make any more of, and you have no idea when it will run out. You do not know when it's going to run out. So what are you going to do with your time at the networking event? And this is me. This is how I operate. This is what I think. We've covered a lot of stuff, and I'm excited to hear your questions, to hear your comments, for you to contribute how it is that you network. I'm excited to hear that here today. That's another reason that we're not going into the breakout rooms, is because there is value in what your peers bring to the table. Always remember that. So look, if you want to learn more about how I operate as a coach and what I believe, you feel free to email me. You can go to my website. I'm in the IR Global Hub. You can do that. And if you're at IR Global Boston, let's connect, please. Let's connect. I would love to have a conversation with you. I would love to hear what your dreams are and your goals are for the year. And I would love to be able to support you. If you're coming to IR Global Paris, I'm speaking on stage. I'm doing a workshop, and it's going to be super exciting. Rachel has helped me hone the topic, and it's going to be great. So wherever we have the opportunity to connect, I look forward to doing that. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks. Cheers, John. I know that you did have a question a couple of minutes ago when you were talking about asking questions in the first instance when you meet people. So Catalina has said in the chat there that I believe asking about goals is quite personal. People will not share from the beginning. Have you got anything you want to add to that?
Sure. What story are you telling yourself around that question? That's what I would say. And here's, look, I think people are excited about their goals. if they've set them. I think it's and it all comes down, it really all comes down to mindset, right? And if you're uncomfortable with that question, don't ask it. It's cool, right? Again, remember that slide. Introducing yourself in a comfortable, authentic way, inserting yourself into conversations, right?
Yeah,
it's got to be comfortable and authentic.
Yeah, because
Go ahead.
authenticity sells in the end. This is exactly what it sells, authenticity.
Yes.
So that's why I think the
100%.
discussion about goals, it's kind of, I mean, some people would be extrovert and would like to talk about it, but if somebody came up to me and asked, what are your goals? I felt that it would be quite intrusive, you see? So
yeah. And Catalina, you are 100% right. Human beings have really good detectors for when people are not being authentic. We know.
Yeah.
We know. The person standing across from us can have a smile on their face. Their body language can be relaxed and engaged. We know what's going on inside, right? We can tell. And so if that question doesn't land with you, it's okay. Have other questions at the ready, right? That's the point, is to have something or a few things ready so that you don't have to think about it. Because as soon as we start thinking about things, it creates an opportunity for our self-talk to get in the way, right? And so get that self-talk out of the way on the front end, come up with your list of questions, and be good with it, right? Be good with it yourself. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
The most commonly asked question at IR Global Conference when people first go into a networking room is, how was your flight? Or
this is so patternized. It's like a pattern. It doesn't sell anymore.
No,
I mean, it's too common. We need to change it, you know.
It's how was your flight, and what's the jet lag like then? It's all the time. I probably have this conversation probably about 15 times. By the time I've answered for the 15th or 20th time, I'm like, I'm so tired from answering this question more than what the jet lag is actually doing to me.
And you just gave me an idea. And if you're coming to Boston, I promise you will see this. I promise. You know, when we have kids, I don't know if it's the same around the world. I think maybe it is. We have this swear jar, right? When mom says a bad word or dad says a bad word or the teenager says a bad word, they got to put $1 into the jar. I'm going to have a jar. And if you ask me how my flight was, you must put $1 into the jar and we'll donate the money.
No. Because it was my idea, I get the money. John, I mean, I'm
okay.
A charitable lady, but if it kicks off and you get over $20, it's coming to me, okay?
All right, okay. So I'll remember that.
Has anyone got
any? You know, if we walk around with a jar in the meeting room, we may get attention and we may strike out some conversation. So this is a good idea.
What's the jar about? Yeah.
Exactly. It's different.
I mean, we've got some quite experienced members on this, not just experienced members with IR, but people who I know network a lot. So if we can have some questions coming through. Oh, brilliant. Just had a few questions in now. So Kathy Rowe from Chicago has just wrote something to you in the chat, John. It's if you can everyone see this chat? Yep. I hope so, but if not, I'll just read it anyway. If you ask questions and can tell it didn't land with that person, how do you adjust and transition to a different question?
Well, that's interesting. I think the best way to operate, if it truly didn't land and it's not just you, right? If it truly didn't land, then you just listen to what they're saying, right? Just listen to what they're saying. As a trial lawyer, it's really important to listen to the answer, because that's where you'll get an idea of where they are, right? What they're thinking, potentially what's another question, and allow them the opportunity and the space, and be in the place of listening to them so that they see, seen, and heard, as opposed to just going to the next question on the list. Listen to what they say. And then you're all top people. You are in your fields, right? That's why you're part of this organization. That's why you go to these types of things. Just listen. That's the other key to networking that I didn't put on a slide. It's listen, really listen, and you'll get the answer to that question.
And then Massimo Fontana from Italy, I believe, has said, how do you feel about attendees reaching out to you after a Congress to express their appreciation and interest in potential collaboration? Is this generally a positive strategy, or could there be downsides? I do feel sometimes it's not the best strategy.
Massimo, if you could hop on, unmute yourself, and let's talk about that last sentence. I feel sometimes it's not the best strategy. If you could share, if you're willing to share an example or your thoughts around that, and then we can kind of take the conversation from there.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, this is just a question because sometimes, okay, I attend some Congress. I was last week in Budapest at a Congress organized by the AEA. And yes, and the thing is, I don't know, because sometimes I feel not very comfortable receiving all these messages and emails, maybe or from people, they give me the business card but I didn't speak to them, or I spoke in only 3 minutes, okay? So it's quite difficult for me to recognize or maybe to get in touch with them or to contact them, because sometimes I feel it's more disturbing for me, because I receive many emails, but I cannot, recognize or maybe create a connection with them, okay? And so I think it's not, for me, it's not a positive strategy, because as you told, it's better maybe to have a talk, to discuss, but because this is always the same. After a Congress or a seminar, you got a lot of, you exchange your business cards and you got a lot of emails. But okay, I know him, but after maybe 1 week, so I've forgotten them. Okay, so I don't know. I don't think it's fruitful. So I just want to have your opinion, because
yeah,
you bet. And I appreciate that. I love it. Here's my view. And again, this is just my view. There are a million ways, right? Here's my view. When you have a conversation with someone at a Congress or a seminar, make a note of what it is that you talked about. Because when you reach out afterwards, you can loop that back in, and they will say, wow, Massimo was really paying attention, right? I just made this comment about my child graduating from uni, or the most exciting thing on my desk or in my life, or whatever it is, right? And you paid attention to that. That's number one, is to make a note as best you can after speaking with people. Just take a minute and make a quick note on your phone, so that when you reach out, and I think it's important to reach out, when you reach out, you can loop that back in, and they will know that you were paying attention. Everybody wants to be seen and heard. Everybody, all of us as human beings. And so doing that, I agree with you that the 7 to 10 days after a conference, the emails are something. They are something. They can be exhausting. They can be surface level. They can be, kind of perfunctory. They can be all those things. The key is, in 2 months, right? how have you nurtured the relationship? If it's a relationship that you want to be invested in and you want to nurture it, what have you done? What have you done? It's not just it can't just be a drive-by. It's got to be a relationship. And so the initial onslaught is the initial onslaught. We all know that this is going to happen, right? And so you can time your outgoing emails to be a little bit later. Okay, yeah, you know what? We've settled in. We're back. I want to reach out to Massimo. I'm going to reach out to you and say, hey, you know what? I gave it some time to breathe. It's great. It was great meeting you. It was great talking about X, whatever we spoke about. And then I would love to stay in touch and mean that. You have to mean that. You can't just say it and then never contact them again. That's no good. That's not a way to build a networking relationship.
Okay, interesting. And then Massimo, I hope that's what you were looking for. And I'm just going to come to Hub now. Hub, I think to save me actually just asking the questions for you, you can probably just ask this one yourself. Are you there?
I am here, if you can hear me. I'm just walking my dogs.
Oh, that's all right.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to do it. Well, if you're preparing for a conference and you're identifying possible people to talk to during the conference, would you recommend reaching out to those people before the conference, trying to set up a meeting at the conference, or rather just try to meet them more spontaneously?
Yeah, I think the spreading the seeds, so reaching out beforehand, I think is the way to go. Again, this is my opinion. This is one way to operate, and here's why. Especially for a networking event or a congress or a conference where it's members, you're all there. You're all going for a reason. You're going for the education and you're going for the connection. So you already have those things in common. And I think, you know, it's funny, in the chat, you have spontaneously in question marks. Well, you know, some meetings may be spontaneous, but some of them aren't. And so why would you fake it? You know, oh, John, I'm so surprised to see you here. It's great to connect. When I'm on your list, I'm on your target list, right? And so there's space for spontaneity for people who you haven't identified and who you connect with and have conversation. You're like, oh, you know, that was really good. And then there's also space for targeting. And it's interesting. The how we operate is quite interesting. We go to, for example, people will go to Boston who are not on this call and want to network, but they don't necessarily have a plan. I see you all here. I know that you're going to have a plan when you get to Boston. And so it will be, I will watch you execute. And then I will ask, was that person a target or were they spontaneous? It is valuable just to be honest. You're being honest. Look, John, I see what you do. It's very interesting. I know you're going to be in Boston. I would love to connect with you. That shows that you're serious. It shows that you're prepared. It shows a lot of things on your part. And so I'm a fan of making that list and then hopping in LinkedIn or sending them an email from the IR Global, you know, roster. You can go in, you can find people, look at their profile. You can do some pre-research. I'm all about reaching out. I think it's helpful, and I think it shows that you are someone who is serious and has a system when it comes to networking.
Just on that point as well, what I've noticed, I mean, I know I'm not the expert here, okay, we're all here to listen to John, but as most of you will know, I like to have an input. But the use of hashtags on LinkedIn is really important, because when you go to an IR event, you use the hashtag for that conference. So hashtag IR Boston 24. If you click that hashtag, it will show you the feed of everybody who is attending that event. and also pull up everybody who's posted about that conference because they are going. So then it is an opportunity for you to connect with those that are attending and engage with their posts before the conference actually begins, just to build yourself up a bit of awareness before you actually get to that event itself. John's just put the hashtag in the chat, and I appreciate it, John, but it is wrong. So I'm just going to fix it and I'll leave the rest to you.
Oh, gosh. I took it out.
So in terms of marketing, like it is a really useful tool. I know sort of hashtags on social platforms can be a bit like, oh, people are just trying to go into certain feeds, but especially for networking, they're very, very handy to use.
And you can do that. Look, y'all can do that when you go to the airport and you're on the way to Boston or any event, right? Just use the appropriate hashtag for the event. And this way you can then click on it. It is a very useful tool. Rachel, thank you so much for that. It's super important.
Do we
Anyone else?
Yeah. Any other questions?
Questions, comments, anything at all? I don't know one.
Hi, John.
Mercedes. Hi.
Yes, sorry, I will try to put my camera, but you know, yesterday I broke my arm. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
I broke my arm, so I'm at home with comfortable clothes because I can't dress me.
Yes,
Well,
yes, I understand.
I have seen in your curriculum that you have also some training in flowing. And
yep.
I would say that my experience in the past, I was not flowing and I was planning and trying to achieve goals and etc. And I did all what you said to check the attendance, to make a list, etc., etc. But now, what I feel is more successful is just to flow. I mean, when you meet somebody, you intuitively can know what that person wants to talk about, or how you can be more authentic, or how can you connect. And so this is a little bit opposite to planning. Still, I think that planning is good, and checking the attendance and establishing goals. Planning is absolutely necessary, even though at the end you do the opposite. But I would like that you talk a little bit about flowing in networking.
Okay, yeah. And I'm happy to do that. When I talk about, well, first of all, let's remember what Churchill and Eisenhower said, right? Doing the planning is critical. Whether you stick with the plan or not that's not the point, right? And so setting a goal. Look, I would like to talk with 5 people for me. I'm just going to tell you for me. I would like to talk with 5 attorneys who are in a managing partner role in law firms that are between 5 and 50 lawyers strong. When I do that, and then I go into the attendee list and I do my research, I'll be able to then talk with people and target them. On the other hand, that being comfortable and authentic, Mercedes, that's what we're talking about. When we're in flow, we have no sense of self. Time dilates, right? Time either flies or really slows down. And we're really engaged and focused in the activity that we're doing. And so the research beforehand and the goal setting beforehand is one thing. And then how you show up is something totally different. I think you are correct. It's important to be in flow or be authentic when you're talking with people, and not, we're not pushing things here. We're not doing that. We're not forcing things, because that doesn't work. That's not possible to create a relationship that way. So the planning is important, and then the other part of it is the authenticity and showing up how you want to show up.
I think, thanks, John. I think there's just one last question in the chat, and then we might, I'm sorry, I'm standing up, and then we might just leave it there because we're coming close to the hour mark, and I'm conscious everyone will probably want to get back to the legal stuff. But it's from Hub again. I know he's walking his dog, so I'll do it this time. But if the execution of the plan is not as important as the planning itself, what tips could you give on how to evaluate your performance during the conference?
That's a great question. You ought to, well, I won't tell anyone what to do. Here's a suggestion. You have your metrics that are important. Then you also have things that of how you show up, right? For my Legal Geek experience, the first day I was isolated, I was to myself, I was in my head, that type of thing. The second day, my goals were quite different. I wanted to be open to the experience. I wanted to be curious. I wanted to be genuine. Those were the three goals that I set for my internal self in how to show up. And because I was able to achieve those goals, then I achieved the metrics as well, right? Those external metrics. So set for yourself, how do I want to feel? How do I want to show up? And really think about it. And that's how you can evaluate yourself at the end of the day.
Cool, thank you, John. I've just put John's LinkedIn profile into this chat. So if anyone wants to just quickly go and click it, you'll be able to connect with him on LinkedIn directly. He will be in Boston and Paris, so you can say hello there in person as well.